Heidelberg is one of the prettiest and best preserved towns in all of Germany, set in picture postcard perfection alongside the Neckar River, with a classic castle towering above. Filled with old world charm, it's almost like a fantasy version of an ancient German town or something dreamed up by Disney, but this is the real thing. Heidelberg's historic center of picturesque early 18th century buildings, about 1 mile long and 4 blocks wide, is an ideal-sized pedestrian zone to explore on foot. In this detailed movie, we are taking you in depth for a complete look at Heidelberg. Of course, we'll take you to the most historic landmark of Heidelberg, the castle up on the hill, one of the most famous and beautiful in Europe. We'll show you how to get up there, and then we'll take a walk in the gardens and show you how to get down. But first, we're going to explore the city itself. It has an amazing pedestrian zone filled with restaurants, shops, historic structures, and always busy with lots of people. We'll go for a walk along the main street of town, the Hauptstrasse, and we'll explore the little side streets as well. And we'll take a stroll on the Philosopher's Walk up on the hill overlooking the city with great views looking back at the town. We'll take a boat ride on the Neckar River all the way up to Neckarsteinach and back, with many practical tips, including a survey of the restaurants of town, and we'll visit the University of Heidelberg, the oldest in Germany. Let's get started with a walk along the main pedestrian lane and a good look at the city's market square. This is one of the first pedestrian zones created in modern Europe, always busy throughout the day and into the evening with locals as well as visitors. We'll take you on the main stretch from the Marketplace Square and a side visit to the university campus, continuing to the modern downtown. Distance of just over 1 kilometer, with shops and restaurants and lots of people out the entire length. While most European cities have lovely pedestrian zones, the one in Heidelberg seems especially charming. It's just the right size where you could see most of it in a few hours, but there's so much there to explore, you could spend a few days walking up and down and in and out of all the shops and bars, cafes, and restaurants, from breakfast till midnight, making this one of Europe's greatest streets for walking. A good place to get started is at the Marketplace Square, called the Marktplatz. Standing in the middle of the Marktplatz gives you a fine perspective on the heart of town, with the old city hall on one side and the Holy Ghost Church, the Heilige Geistkirche, on the other. In between, the outdoor cafes usually have their tables set up for food and beer. This is the good life. Sit down, make yourself comfortable, and you'll be served right at your table. The marketplace has always been the main square, hosting a variety of activities from food sales to public executions. People are still drawn here to the outdoor tables set up for eating, drinking beer, and watching other people. As in many small or medium-sized European cities, the marketplace is the center of town, usually nestled right next to the cathedral, as we have here, and with City Hall on the other side of the square. It's one of those important and fun community spaces where you have a lot of activity all around the edges, with the restaurants and the waiter service and the takeaway service, with an imposing Gothic church towering high above, and all the tables in the middle where people can gather and have a meal or a drink or just talk. There's even a restaurant and a creperie snack bar sheltered by the walls of the church. And the church has shop stalls most of the way around the outside of it, between the buttresses, in a tradition that has been carried on here since the Middle Ages, and typical of many other churches throughout the region. These stalls sell tourist items, so it's a good place to look for postcards, t-shirts, and anything that says Heidelberg on it. In the Middle Ages, the church was not just about religion, it was the center of community life. Merchants had shops around the square, and farmers would sell their produce in the main square, which still happens today in this Marktplatz. On Wednesdays and Saturdays, if you're in town then, be sure to catch that open market. It's a fine opportunity to take some pictures or just hang out. Even if you're not buying any of the foods, just browse around and have a look. I'm using 3 screens occasionally to recreate that feeling of actually being there. You're surrounded by images as you walk along in front, to the sides, and behind you, packing in more pictures in less time. Fun stimulation for your eyes and brain. But if it's too much, just look at the main screen. This Gothic church was built in the early 15th century with the pretty red sandstone, so typical of Heidelberg construction. You get great views of the castle, and conveniently located here is the Tourist Information Office, which can help you out with some activities, tell you what concerts are coming up, help you find a hotel even. And you'll notice this statue up on the column in the middle of the Marktplatz. It's a statue of Hercules, carved from that characteristic red sandstone. You can climb the church tower for a small fee and also listen to concerts here many evenings during the summer. Check the schedule posted outside the front door, and you might even run into a free rehearsal during the afternoon. We'll go up on the roof for that view in just a moment, but first a quick look around inside the church while listening to their big organ. It's built in the late Gothic style, so there is plenty of light coming in through the large, colorful stained glass windows, and a great feeling of spaciousness with the high ceiling and the central nave with 2 aisles and big columns holding up the roof. It's really not that difficult to climb up to the top of the church tower. There's the inevitable spiral staircase that will take you right up to the top. It's easy. It just takes 5 or 10 minutes. It's not a strain at all. You arrive at the top at the observation platform, then you are able to walk all the way around the tower and get views looking out in every direction from the top of the Holy Ghost Church. You're nearly at the level of the castle, providing an especially good view. Also a nice look down at the Jesuit church, built in a Baroque style, also with a tall tower. From here, you can see all the clay tile rooftops of the city. Picturesque beyond imagination. This is as good as it gets in looking into the heart of an old town. Ironically, the well-preserved historic town center is a result of extensive war damage from much earlier times. The city was rebuilt in the 18th century in this harmonious design, with a uniform overall appearance and yet a great diversity of detail, then nicely preserved with few changes over the last couple of centuries. Come back down the same way that you went up, then out the door and you're back in the marketplace. Facing the church, you'll notice a building with a unique style of the Renaissance. It's the Zum Ritter, which had been an old palace, but now it's a hotel with a restaurant. When the French invaded in the 17th century, they leveled the entire city except for this one building and the churches. Some of the best restaurants in town are tucked away inside of the main hotels. Zum Ritter's excellent restaurant has gourmet food equal to any of the other great restaurants of town, offering the highest level of service with a European flair to the presentation. And a historic setting because it's the oldest non-religious building in town, dating from 1592. Zum Ritter is located on the southwest corner of the Marketplace Square at the corner with the Hauptstrasse. That's the main pedestrian lane of the city. You will be drawn irresistibly down the alluring Hauptstrasse, the high street with one shop after another and a lineup of historic buildings that continues for about a mile. This street goes from the Marketplace all the way to Bismarckplatz, and we are going to show you the whole thing. This is one of Europe's greatest streets for walking and will be your main focus of activity along with the castle. The Hauptstrasse was one of the first pedestrian streets created in all of Europe. Of course, earlier it was a street for cars. It would be a narrow street, but it would have had busy automobile traffic. But many decades ago, the town decided they wanted to create this wonderful ambiance, a pedestrian mall that stretches about a mile from the main square into the more modern downtown. And of course, since then, In the last 30, 40 years, throughout Europe, you find many streets in the downtowns have been converted from automobile streets to pedestrian malls. And then the cities continue expanding their pedestrian zones into the side streets and into the back streets. And it just keeps on going. The cities have discovered that by keeping the cars out, you bring people in and it's better for business. This is very much a street used by the local population as well as by the visitors. You might see groups of kids out for a walk after getting out of school. The mix of locals and visitors on the street is typical of many of the small, old European cities with their historic centers containing well-preserved original buildings. Visitors love to experience that feeling of authenticity that they're in a real place, not just a tourist shopping mall or some kind of newly created attraction. Hauptstrasse is certainly the most popular destination for hungry tourists looking for some food, and there are many fine possibilities along this street. But throughout the movie, we'll be showing you other restaurant locations to encourage you to get out away from the main popular drag and onto the side streets where you might find a little bit more of the local cuisine and perhaps higher quality. However, Hauptstrasse also has a lot of great food to offer. It's a wonderful street. It's one of the great pedestrian lanes of the world, no doubt, and has a lot of good eating choices. And sometimes you'll get lucky and get some free food. In this case, it was some delicious dried apple crisps. Wow, they were tasty, healthy, and free. You'll find some real food bargains here as well. You can get a simple meal like a kebab, Turkish or Greek in origin, the gyros, the revolving meat going around on a spit. And the locals also shop and eat here, so the prices are going to be fair. The wine atrium on Hauptstrasse is not only a wine shop, it's a wine bar. You can sit down in their cozy cellar or out in their garden and enjoy a glass. Sample it before you buy a bottle. Don't think that main street, the Hauptstrasse, is just for tourists. Take a closer look and you'll see that there are some marvelous local restaurants, such as the White Swan, with a historic tradition going back 450 years, serving traditional cuisine in a rustic wooden setting. There are dozens of places to eat along the Hauptstrasse. Many of them just simple outdoor casual cafes, a great spot for people watching with that endless passing parade of characters from breakfast till midnight. Walking along the Hauptstrasse, you're likely to come upon a street musician here and there, so do yourself a favor and listen for a few minutes and then give a nice tip.
I've been waiting so long.
You'll also run into sidewalk artists engaged in creating some original oil paintings perhaps, or watercolors, scenes of Heidelberg, or perhaps modern interpretations, contemporary art.
When the sun goes up and the moon goes down, I'll be there. I'll be there.
The University of Heidelberg has a main campus in the center of the old town, right along Hauptstrasse. 28,000 students are fortunate to be attending one of the world's great universities. It's the oldest in Germany, founded in 1386. The campus is right in the middle of the old town and open to the public. There are several streets that run through it and courtyards, and there are buildings that have restaurants and bookstores and classrooms. 56 Nobel Prize winners have been affiliated with the university that graduates 1,000 PhDs every year, spanning a wide range of academic specialties. One of their cafeterias is right on University Place and has reasonable prices with pretty good food. Open to the public and a very sociable spot. If you're interested in meeting some local students and having a chat about life in Heidelberg, this could be a place to do it. Or if you just want a coffee or a light snack, help yourself. Along with its historic charms, this is also a very modern college town of science and technology, heavily involved in research and development, where 1 in 5 residents is a student. Quite a few of them are foreign exchange students as well. It has different colleges for philosophy, law, theology, chemistry, medicine, and several other fields. This campus is centered around Universitätsplatz, the main campus square, but many classes take place a few miles away in the newer part of town, and we will take you out there for a look later in the program, after we have a walk around and show you some of the interesting locations and buildings of this historic campus. If you're lucky, you might run into a chamber music concert at the old university in the Aula Hall that dates back to the 19th century. The most famous university site is the library, built in a style blending the Baroque and Art Nouveau, and has 3 million books in the system. Out front is a popular spot for the students to hang out and take a break. Inside, it's chock full of all sorts of modern technology with computers everywhere. Said to be the busiest library in Germany. A lot of the collection has been digitized and is freely available worldwide through the internet, such as this old map of Heidelberg from 1850. And they have a small museum-type display with old books, an old globe, and other kinds of literary artifacts. Open to the public, so if you're passing by, have a look inside. When you're back on the main pedestrian lane, the Hauptstrasse, if you'd like to sit down for a light meal or a snack, a great choice would be the famous bakery and cafe Schaff Heudel. You can sit outdoors in front, on the street, or in the back garden, maybe in their lovely greenhouse-type room that gives you the feeling of being outdoors with the comfort of being inside. This conditorei offers a full-service menu all day for a nice lunch or dinner, but they're most famous as a pastry shop. Check out the front counter. It's just loaded with cakes and pies, tarts, breads, rolls, muffins, croissants. It's pastry heaven. Located in the heart of the old town near the university. You'd never realize from the outside of the bakery on Hauptstrasse that there is such a wonderland and garden inside. There are several museums in Heidelberg. These are some of the fine cultural institutions that can keep you busy for numerous hours. The most outstanding museum in town is the Kurpfällisches City Museum, midway along the Hauptstrasse. You'd never know the museum is here if you don't walk through the archway. The museum also has a nice restaurant and a cute garden cafe with a tranquil little fountain. So even if you're not going to enter the museum, you might be tempted to sit at one of these charming outdoor tables surrounded by greenery. You will be rewarded if you visit inside because this is a history museum with some fine artworks and archaeology. It's got a varied collection with paintings, sculpture, urban history, graphics, decorative arts, and prehistory. You could easily be entertained and educated here for a couple of hours, and it's in a beautiful setting of the former Baroque palace. The masterpiece of the collection is a carved wooden altar made in 1509 by Germany's most important Renaissance sculptor, Tilman Riemenschneider. You'll also learn some about the ancient Romans who built a camp and a bridge here at the Neckar River. See some fine old paintings and the jaw of Heidelberg man, nearly 500,000 years old. The garden's free, but there's a small admission charge for the museum. Motor vehicles are restricted from that main pedestrian street, so when you've got some cargo to move, it's going to be muscle power. Of course, you do get the odd delivery vehicle and taxi coming through, but mostly it's pedestrian heaven. There are many little side lanes for pedestrians that you'll want to explore on your own, but for now we are going to walk to the end of the Hauptstrasse into the modern part of downtown, where you'll come on a major intersection for shopping and traffic. It's Bismarckplatz. where you'll find the Galeria Kaufhof, which is a big department store. And they've got everything inside, including a very nice bakery and sandwich bar right out front. Cafe Rossi is a very popular spot just off of the main square. You can sit outdoors or inside at the coffee bar. This is a busy intersection, quite a contrast with the Old Town pedestrian zone. It's where the buses and the trams come through. It's a major transit center, so this whole neighborhood is really quite interesting to see. It's the more modern, the less touristic side of Heidelberg, surrounded by department stores and shops, with various places to eat. There's not really much in the way of historic sites down here, but it's fascinating nonetheless to watch all this tram action. A number of different tram lines and a lot of people catching the bus or transferring from one tram to another. And notice how safe and easy it is. They can walk right in front of the trains, no problem. People hop off one vehicle and hop onto another and continue on their way. It's an extensive tram system operated by the Rhine-Neckar Railway with connections all the way to the nearby city of Mannheim. It first opened in 1885, and it's been operating continuously, expanding, modernizing, of course. It's wonderful to see how this old technology can be brought up to date continually with more modern vehicles and improved tracks. There was so much energy and action and transportation going on, we felt the urge to jump on a tram and go somewhere. And one nice outing from this point is out to the other university campus, just about 1 mile outside of town. So we went. You could get there by a direct bus, but we wanted the fun of taking a tram. So you have to change trams at the main train station and then carry on. And within 15-20 minutes, you have arrived at the university. It's really quite easy. Your one ticket includes the transfer to that second tram ride, and the service is quite frequent. The direct bus is quicker, but this is more fun. The trams are so sturdy and comfortable that you can even swing from the straps if you're a kid. This new campus, called the Neuenheimerfeld, was built in the 1960s, expanding to the point where it occupies an area as large as the entire Old Town of Heidelberg. Almost all science faculties, the medical school, most of the dormitories, and the athletic facilities are found out here at the new campus. There's a small botanical garden that's freely open to the public, and you can walk through the campus, but frankly, there's not really a lot to see out here. It's mostly modern buildings, a functional place, but since we had the time, we wanted to come out here and take a look and show it to you. Many students just ride their bicycles the 3 kilometers to get back into the Old Town campus. But for us, it's another quick tram ride, retracing our steps back to Bismarckplatz. From here, there are a number of little lanes fun for walking we'll take you on coming up soon. But first, we're going to the castle. Easy to reach, walking back up along Hauptstrasse, and then to the Funicular, riding up the hill and walk into the castle. Later, we'll cross the river and stroll up the hill to the Philosophers Walk and then take a boat ride. The number one destination for every visitor to Heidelberg is the castle. There's something magical about castles, especially a romantic ruin that sits majestically up on a hill looking out over the old town. You could easily spend several hours at this amazing destination. First built in the 13th century and then gradually expanded to house the local royalty over the next 3 centuries. Finally destroyed by an invading French army in the 1690s and later struck by lightning that burned most of the rest of it down. But it has been renovated and restored back to its former glory, with an extreme mix of destruction and beauty that conjures up the turbulent past of this strategic fortification. Its crumbling walls and towers stand next to a complete palace with a restored interior, making this a must-see attraction in your visit to Heidelberg. From the top, you will get a fantastic view looking down on the old town. More than just beautiful, this is one of the great vistas of Europe. The castle is way up on the hill, which might present a challenge of getting up there, but fortunately, you don't have to walk up because you can ride up in a funicular. It's easy to reach the funicular from town level by walking out the back street of Karlsplatz to the lift station. It's found in a modern building just across the street. Don't bother trying to walk up the hill. Take the 5-minute ride on this very efficient inclined rail car. It first opened in 1890, making this one of the oldest funiculars in Germany. It's recently been rebuilt, so now it's really a state-of-the-art machine that glides you up in smooth, quiet comfort. The ticket you'll purchase for the funicular also gets you into the castle, and if you were to walk up the hill instead of riding the funicular, you'd still have to buy that same ticket at the same price at the top just to get into the castle. So the ride on the funicular is no extra price. That funicular ticket is also a round trip, so you can ride down on the same ticket. For now, you get off at the Schloss Castle Station, and you walk through the arched gateway and start out by walking left onto the terrace for this grand vista looking down on the town below. And there you get the classic view looking down on the old town. You can spot some landmarks. You see the Holy Ghost Church, and of course the bridge, and the Neckar River down below. It's really like a storybook postcard come to life. Yes. Unfortunately for some bus tours, this is the only view they ever get to see of Heidelberg. A quick look at the castle, and from the castle a peek down into the old town. But in today's program, we'll show you why it's really worth spending a couple of days in Heidelberg itself with time to properly explore this beautiful castle. You can see how the castle is built on steep cliffs to prevent invasion from the front, and with high walls and a dry moat protecting the rear. The crumbling round tower on the corner is a testament to this new age of destruction that came with those French invaders. The terrace offers a stunning view of the town down below, and also some interesting angles on the side of the castle, the walls, the towers, the turrets, and it's a very pleasant park as well with an easy walkway. But it's curious that many visitors to the castle miss this terrace altogether because they're in such a rush and they come off the funicular and they just want to go right into the castle, so they bypass it. There's no real sign saying, hey, come out here to look at the view. But from this angle, you'll get a better perspective on the defensive fortifications, the steep walls leading down into that dry moat. And you'll also gain some views of the residential hillside behind the castle with some of the big mansions that are up there now. When you visit the castle, be sure to make time for this terrace view. Another good reason why it's worth spending 2 nights in Heidelberg on your visit. It's a city with many interesting sights, as you've seen already, and now the best part is coming up with a visit inside the castle. It's very easy to reach this terrace view. Just simply walk through that triumphal archway. You can't miss that. You'll see on this map of the castle the route that we've taken so far, coming out of the funicular, walking over to that panorama terrace for the splendid view looking down at the town. Then we continue back through the terrace and around to the gatehouse entrance of the castle into the courtyard. We'll have a look around. There'll be some more views, interior visits, and then we'll come out again and walk over into the castle gardens. We'll show you how to get the most out of your visit. You enter the castle through a dramatic sequence of fortified gatehouse, bridge, and gate tower. As you pass through, look up into the arch to see the massive portcullis. It's a pointed gate that would drop down to seal the entrance. 2 drawbridges and 4 more gates completed the original barriers that kept invaders out, but these are no longer there to stop you. Once inside the castle, you'll be delighted to see the beautiful state of preservation of the main buildings. First thing you see is the huge central courtyard. As you stand here in the courtyard, surrounded by the castle, your eyes will be drawn, first of all, to the impressive Renaissance facade of the Friedrich building. dripping with sculptural and decorative architectural details. It was built from 1601 to 1607 as the living quarters for the Duke of Bavaria. It's embellished with 16 elegant statues depicting emperors and kings of the Wittelsbach dynasty. That was the main royal family who lived in Heidelberg over the centuries. The statues are clad in a stone armor and have weapons befitting their noble warrior status. You can find pictures of this facade in many art history books and on every postcard rack in town. Here in the ruins of the Heidelberg Castle, you really get a feeling for the Middle Ages and the early Renaissance. The heyday of this building started about the year 1400 and continued right up through the conquest by Louis XIV in the late 1600s. And then even into the 1700s, there were noble princes and residents here. Some damage was created in the Wars of Succession that were led by Louis XIV, who blasted it with cannons. And there was further damage in a huge lightning storm in 1764, where bolts of lightning blasted into the walls of this castle and destroyed several of the towers. But today we still have the original remains. This is standing inside the ruins of Ludwig's room. And this was one of the great rulers who resided here at the Heidelberg Castle. And he was largely responsible for much of the architecture of the building that we see today. The various stages of castle construction stand all around the courtyard. Some wings are well preserved while others are extremely damaged. To your right is the Otto Heims building, the one that's all in ruins with empty space behind the walls. And that's considered the finest example of German Renaissance architecture in this area. The mid-16th century that was built. It's still pretty to look at with dozens of impressive statues depicting heroes of the Bible and mythology, framed by elaborate neoclassical pilasters, cornices, moldings, and scrolls. But it's just a freestanding shell with no building behind it. The earliest buildings here were from about 1400. It's behind you. This is the Rupert's building. The Prince-Elector Rupert, he was one of the guys who really founded this castle, and that was his main residence at that time. You can also pay to go inside the castle and tour some of the rooms. The oldest building here in the courtyard is the old library. You can still see the Gothic windows. This dates back to the 14th and 15th centuries. There's the well house. You have to have a well to provide water when you're in a castle in case you're besieged. The well is located in a picturesque loggia with columns and pointed arches. There's also a wine bar here at the castle. You could have a snack or a meal at that Terrace restaurant, but there's a far more interesting wine experience waiting for you in the castle's basement. Be sure to visit the Cellar. This is really one of the highlights of the castle because it contains the world's largest wine barrel. It was made from 120 large oak trees, and it had a capacity of 275,000 bottles of wine. How big is it? It's so big there's a wooden staircase you can climb to reach a viewing platform on the top, a level area that was constructed to have dance parties. Then you keep walking alongside the barrel and you'll come to a very steep spiral wooden staircase. Hang on to that wooden railing because it's a narrow, curved flight of steps back down to floor level. They say there was a network of pipes running from here throughout the castle to deliver the wine in a fantastic system that kept the party going nonstop. It was built in 1751, but after a few decades, actually it began to crack. And so they emptied it out of all the wine and they kept it instead as a showpiece. Perkeo was the castle jester who loved to drink wine. This legendary dwarf was a castle entertainer, also in charge of the wine, where he reputedly drank 5 to 8 gallons of wine a day. When asked if he wants another glass of wine, he'd always say, "Perché no?" or "Why not?" giving rise to his nickname, Perkeo. According to legend, he lived happily into his 80s, having never drunk anything in his life except for wine. But when he took ill as an old man, the town doctor had him drink water. He died the next day. While you're down here in the cellar, you'll find some other interesting activities, including a wine bar and another big barrel. In fact, that's the first barrel that you're going to see when you come in the entrance. But don't be fooled. This is not nearly as large as the big one that we've just been visiting. So be sure to get to the real thing while you're down here. In addition to these huge barrels, there was 3 times as much wine stored elsewhere in the castle for a grand total of 1 million bottles. That fueled a steady stream of guzzling, which reportedly averaged 2,000 liters every day. Appropriately, there's a nice wine tasting bar available down here in the cellar for you to sample various German red and white varieties at a reasonable price. This country is famous for beer, but modern Germans are more likely to drink wine. When you finish with the cellar, walk up the ramp and take a turn to go out onto another viewing terrace. There's no real sign that points the way out to this terrace. It's just the passageway that you go through to get out here. This gives you yet another perspective looking down on the town and the river and the bridge down below. It's really a grand vista, and you can look back up at the wall of the castle itself. You might even see some wedding photography going on up here. It's a very picturesque spot. You'll be snapping lots of pictures out here on the terrace. It does give you a slightly different view than the first terrace that you were looking out from. So it's a nice vantage. You want to get yourself in the picture, prop your camera up on your elbow so you get a good steady shot of the distant landscapes. There's a very impressive residential neighborhood on the other side of the Neckar River with some huge houses. Probably many of them have been divided up into smaller apartments by now. Looking down into the old town, you'll see the Heilig Geist Church right on the market square. Take proper time here to soak it all in. It's quite a grand view. And then moving along to the next castle highlight. Your basic ticket to the castle includes a visit to the German Pharmacy Museum, which has several basement galleries covering the history of medicine and pharmaceuticals. Now, this is a lot more interesting than it sounds. First of all, you're entering into the basement of a beautiful structure, so just the architecture of the rooms themselves is worthwhile, and then the contents is really a bonus. Also called the Apothecary Museum, it gives you a fine idea of how medicine was practiced back in the 1700s. You see all of these different potions and the instruments that were used to create them, and the stock shelves for selling and storing them. You'll be surprised how large and captivating the exhibit is, with 20,000 objects representing the history of pharmacy. The floor plan shows the many galleries, each with their own theme. They say it's the largest and finest such collection in existence, spanning 2,000 years of pharmacy history. The ancient chemist was able to boil and evaporate the essential elements of a compound using a still, and then condense them into a concentrated and effective medicine. This process is still used today in manufacturing our own pharmaceuticals, with slightly more modern factory-style equipment, of course. Be sure to walk down that staircase to the lower level to enjoy this large collection of stills. After completing your visit to the castle grounds, you want to have a look at the castle gardens. But before leaving the castle, why not take a little time to look around once again at these magnificent buildings and just consider their history. Castles like this were powerful sanctuaries in the Middle Ages. Back then, they did not have unified governments or a country that protected each town. It was the feudal system where each town was on its own, almost functioning as a city-state. And so these castles were critically important to safety, security, and protection of the ruling class. But then later, when they were attacked by the large cannonballs introduced in the 16th and 17th century, the mighty walls could be blasted to dust. The Heidelberg Castle was occupied by various members of the local royalty for 3 centuries until its destruction by French invaders and lightning strikes in the late 17th century when it was abandoned. By the early 19th century, it was a total ruin and in danger of being completely pulled down, but preservationists got busy and began reconstruction, which continued right on up through the 20th century, producing this grand structure, which is one of the finest examples of a castle anywhere in Europe. It ranks right up there with other great castles such as Salzburg, Edinburgh, Prague, Segovia, or Windsor. But this one has the best location, perched magnificently over the old town. And when you're done with your visit to the castle itself, you exit back out through the watchtower, cross the bridge over the moat, and into the gardens. You don't want to leave the castle without taking a good stroll through these vast green terraces, which have quite a history of their own. And there's no charge for the garden, so if you're pinching pennies, you could enjoy much of this experience for free. It's a level promenade and offers some additional views of the castle. This large tower was used to store barrels of gunpowder, and unfortunately it blew up in 1669 when the French attacked it. Mark Twain was impressed by it during his visit and described it saying, "This old tower is split down the middle and one half is tumbled aside in a picturesque attitude. The standing half exposes its arched and cavernous rooms like open, toothless mouths. Misfortune has done for this old tower what it has done for the human character sometimes, improved it." The castle garden was originally a rocky gully that provided a natural barrier defending the castle's flank, until King Frederick V decided to fill in the chasm and create an elaborate garden complete with statues, fountains, flower beds, fish ponds, and other sensual delights. It developed a miraculous reputation as the 8th wonder of the world, but ironically, invading armies later used the level gardens as a convenient avenue to attack the castle. There are several lovely fountains scattered through the gardens, especially at the back edge where a voluptuous river god lounges in a grotto. You'll want to walk to the far end of the castle garden to get some excellent views of the town and the river and the castle from different angles than you have seen previously. You'll get a lovely perspective on the old bridge and the Neckar River down below. Excursion boats have decks indoors and out. You might be surprised to see there are some vineyards up on the hill. Yeah, they make their own wine. If you are out in the garden for these views, you can then take a shortcut back into town by simply walking down a lovely footpath. You could instead take the 5-minute funicular ride back down, like nearly all visitors. It's included in the price of your ticket, but you'll find it's faster and more fun to walk down. The entrance to the path has no sign, but you'll see it. Notice how it would be the same distance to walk down compared to walking back over to the funicular. It's only about 400 meters either way. Then if you go to the funicular, you've got to wait for the ride. Sometimes there's a line, and that takes time. The stroll down is not only faster, it gives you a pleasant, scenic alternative experience. The footpath takes a very gentle slope, so it's easy to walk it, especially if you can get into one of those downhill rhythms where you sort of float along. You'll have a lush garden view on one side of the path and the castle looming overhead on the other side. The walk down takes just 10 minutes, and that completes your visit to the castle. On the other hand, if you're feeling more adventurous and have some time, you could ride the funicular to the very top of this mountain at 1,600 feet, way above the castle, where there's a small amusement park, snack bar for lunch, and an observation tower that offers a view over the surrounding countryside. And then you can ride back down on the funicular back to town. But maybe leave that trip up to Königstuhl for another visit. One of your best activities while visiting Heidelberg is taking a stroll on the famous Philosopher's Walk. It's up on the hill and gives you a grand view looking down at Heidelberg. You can do this any time of day, but in the afternoon you will get the best lighting shining down on the red tile rooftops of the city. It is a green and pleasant path that will bring you to an observation terrace with one of the world's most beautiful views, the fairy tale Old City on a River with its brooding castle above, tinted in earthy hues with clay tile roofs and rosy-colored stone walls, especially vivid late in the day. This is one of the two greatest vistas that Heidelberg has to offer. The other one is looking down from the castle at the town and across to here at the Philosopher's Walk. No visit to Heidelberg can really be complete without seeing both of these grand vistas. As you'll soon see, it does require a little bit of effort to walk up here, but it's well worth it. To get here, you cross the river on the landmark Old Bridge. The bridge is very easy to walk along with the smooth cobble paving and just takes a few minutes to cross over to the other side. It's a pedestrian bridge and a scenic landmark in its own right, although in the evening there are some local cars and delivery vehicles that'll drive across it, but not during the day. The bridge is very easy to find because it's one of the most popular gathering spots in town. It's just a block away from the central market square. You can see on the map the easy routing for getting up there. Just walk over the bridge across to the other side of the river and then walk up the hill. And as soon as you get across the bridge, you can stop over there and look back at the bridge with the town and castle behind it for another postcard view. Now, this is just a little foretaste of the major panorama that you're about to experience once you get up to the top. Now that you are on the other side of the river, cross the street and then you go straight ahead into a little driveway area, following the sign that points to the Philosopher Weg. The entrance to the path is not all that obvious, and you'll be standing in a small parking lot for a couple of cars. Just keep going and you'll soon find that narrow path that leads up the hill. Well, this climb takes about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on your conditioning, or it might take you a half hour if you need to stop frequently and rest along the way. That's okay. You don't want to be in a rush in a situation like this. Maybe hang on to the wall once in a while for a little bit of support as you go. It's something like walking up a 25-story building, so it's not for the faint-hearted, but it's well worth the effort. And this would be a good time to remind yourself that walking is a very good exercise. It's healthy. This is another example of why you want to be in good shape before you take any kind of a trip. It pays to do your practice walking at home before you go, at least a half an hour every day for several months prior to the trip, so that you can handle anything on the road. You don't have to be a superstar athlete to make this walk up the hill. Almost anybody in normal conditioning can do it easily, especially resting along the way. But if you've done some physical conditioning, you'll be that much more comfortable. When you see others running up, you know it can't be that bad, even if they're kids. On your way up this steep hill, by all means, stop a few times and catch your breath. Rest a little bit. There is no great hurry to get up there. You'll find some places you can take a break on the way up with some benches and a little lookout. The views from the midpoint are also very nice, so be sure to stop and have a look there. Bring your own snacks and water because there is nothing available for sale along the way. And it looks like you're making very good progress from here. You're way up. The top cannot be too much further. It's just around the bend and around a couple more bends. Soon enough, you'll find your way. And notice the pretty gardens along both sides of this path. While going up, you'll have some views across the terraced vineyards and other lush greenery, which some have compared to a Tuscan hillside. You'll also see a variety of subtropical plants and trees such as palm, almond, fig, and lemon. The climate here in southern Germany is relatively mild. The path itself is quite well designed and constructed because it's a fairly gradual incline. Mostly it's a ramp going up, And there are a few steps here and there and short staircases. Stone paving underneath and the stone walls alongside of you really make an interesting scenario as you walk along. And remember, when you come down, it'll be a lot easier. You can't say I didn't warn you. That was quite a height. But perseverance will finally get you there. When you do reach the Philosopher's Way, the path levels off, so now it's really quite easy. It's a normal horizontal pedestrian lane. As promised, it delivers that spectacular view. It's the scene that you'll find on every postcard rack back in Heidelberg town, but why not get up here and see it for yourself in reality, in person? Better than even this video can show you, it's the real thing. You'll want to spend at least 10 minutes up here, and by now you are ready for a rest. You'll find benches and a railing and different perspectives to enjoy the view down below. You can walk along the upper path for a while and make like a poet or philosopher as you absorb the visual treat down there, being sure to get your tourist snapshots. They say professors from the university used to come up here in the old days to get away from the noise and enjoy some quiet contemplation and philosophical conversations as they strolled along, leading to the name of it as the Philosophenweg, which translates from German as Philosopher's Way, although commonly it's referred to as the Philosopher's Walk. If you still have some energy and are feeling ambitious, you could continue walking about a mile to the western end of the footpath and then crossing over the Neckar River on the modern Theodor Heuss Bridge, and from there walk back into the old town on the main street. That end of the path has a more gradual slope to walk down, which is how people on their bicycles are able to pedal up onto the Philosopher's Path. However, most folks are happy just to get to the first or second viewpoint up on the hill, rest on a bench, enjoy the view, and then return back down the same way you came up into the old town. A more strenuous alternative is to keep walking further uphill. There is a path that goes up. You'll reach a memorial to Bismarck, the first Chancellor of Germany, and then you could continue even higher to the ruins of an 11th century monastery. You could probably walk down in about 10 minutes, especially when you get in the flow of a downhill roll. Smiling now, downhill, easy downhill, see, that's why. Don't forget to enjoy some of the views along the way down, even though you might be saturated with the vistas you've already been absorbing. You could do this entire walking round trip in about 45 minutes. Take 20 minutes going up, 10 minutes at the top, 15 minutes going down. It's so easy. You don't want to miss out. It looks like a lot of work to go up and down, and it is. There's some work involved, but 30 minutes of effort is really worth your time. Of course, you might want to spend a little bit longer up at the top and take it a little more easy on the way up and down. So you could easily stretch this into a 1-hour experience. To give you an idea of how lovely and popular this walk is, it's listed on TripAdvisor as the #1 thing to do in Heidelberg. And they have nearly 1,500 comments about it on their website, nearly every one of them calling the activity excellent or very good. For example, one of them said, "Please do not miss this walk if visiting Heidelberg. Pleasant walk, breathtaking views of the city with the castle, especially in the afternoon when the sunlight is just right." Another said, "A bit of a steep climb, but well worth the views at the top. I definitely recommend it." And here's one more comment from TripAdvisor. "The Philosophenweg offers the best aerial views of Heidelberg. At the top, it's surreal to gaze down at the old town and Neckar River. Absolutely worth the effort to climb up. When you reach the bottom of the hill, be careful when you're crossing this busy street. You don't want to jaywalk here. There are too many cars coming by, so wait for the green and then hustle across." Finally, Take a moment to enjoy another vista from street level looking across the river back to the old town. There are steps leading down to the river's edge and a waterfront path. It goes for a couple of miles. The bridge gets a fiery color in the late afternoon. And no doubt you'll see some scullers on the river. Many university students enjoy rowing for exercise, and they also have some competitive teams. One of the delightful excursions you can take is a boat ride on the Neckar River. Now you can either do the short 40-minute round trip ride or take a longer ride, as we're going to show you all the way to Neckarsteinach and see some old crumbling castles. Leaving from the dock near the university cafeteria, you'll soon get a fine view of the old bridge and then the castle looming up behind it, providing another lovely angle on that iconic symbol of the city. It's just magnificent to sit on the upper deck of the boat out in the sunshine, enjoying the fresh air, having some drinks served to you. There can be no doubt that beer on the boat is a winning combination. There's scullers. Being a university town, you'll see that sculling is very popular here. On the edge of Heidelberg town, the Neckar River has a lock. There's a number of locks along the rivers of Europe, of course, to adjust for the different levels of the river as it goes uphill or downhill. The normal 40-minute boat ride does not go into the lock. It just turns around and heads back towards Heidelberg. But we wanted to go a little further today, and they sold us a ticket where we could go for a half an hour out and then turn around, take another boat half an hour back for a 1-hour ride, which gave us a look at the forest-covered hillsides and a chance to see more water activities like these stand-up paddlers who are having fun and getting a good workout. The boat does continue for 1 more hour all the way to the village of Neckarsteinach, a historic village with some castle ruins. Coming right up, we'll show you an old trip that we took there. This time we got off the boat here at the Neuburg Abbey, wait 5 or 10 minutes, and catch the next ship coming back towards Heidelberg. However, on an earlier trip some years ago, we did stay on the boat and go all the way to Neckarsteinach. We're cruising from Heidelberg to Neckarsteinach on the River Neckar. It's really an enjoyable boat ride. It takes about an hour and a half to go from Heidelberg to Neckarsteinach. And then we'll get off the boat and walk around in the village. And you can stay in the village for an hour or 2 hours, 3 hours if you wish. So it's a very pleasant outing. You can either make it half a day or most of a day, particularly when the weather is nice and bright the way it is today. And then get back to Heidelberg for the evening. It's a very nice ride on a medium-sized river ship that holds several hundred people with comfortable chairs, both indoors and out on the deck, and plus there's a decent snack bar, and some ships have a restaurant. Neckarsteinach is known as the town of 4 castles, so the main event when you get there is walking along a footpath which brings you to these old ruins. The first 2 castles are actually private. There's still people living in them. Well, once you get to the couple of ruins, you can clamber all over the abandoned walls and walk up the crumpled stairs to get a nice view looking down on the river valley. Like many castles along Europe's waterways, these were homes to barons who extorted tolls from passing ships, so they needed a good view perspective to spot their prey. We're standing in a castle ruins in the village of Neckarsteinach. This is a romantic and wonderful place. You can imagine the history that's taken place here over the years. The castle was first built in the 12th century. Now it's just standing here in ruins. There's foundation walls, there's the tower, the lookout tower. The name of this ruin is Hinterburg. It's the oldest of the 4 castles in the area, and the most interesting to explore, with the ruined walls, the foundations, the pathways, the staircases, all set in a wild, overgrown garden. Castles have some kind of special quality that appeals to the kid in all of us. Even the dog gets excited by the prospects of this unusual structure. And for the serious adult interested in history, there's a lot to explore here. The castle was already dilapidated by the 14th century and then experienced phases of extension, renovation, and decay until it was finally destroyed in 1630 during the 30 Years' War. You'll also spot the riverfront village of Neckarsteinach, which is where we're going back to now. It's an easy walk. It's mostly downhill. The path is not paved, but that's part of the naturalistic charm of this forested route. It will take you about 20 minutes to walk to Neckarsteinach. Back in the village center, you'll find several nice restaurants serving typical local foods. You might even catch a brass band performing. As you're walking around in Neckarsteinach, keep in mind that you've got to catch that boat back to Heidelberg. Each afternoon, there are generally 4 departures. If you miss the boat or want to get back to Heidelberg faster, you could take the train. In that case, you could have purchased a one-way ticket on the boat to begin with and a one-way ticket on the train. It'll come out to about the same price. There's also a public bus connecting them, or you could take a taxi. It's a lot more expensive. But the boat ride is lovely, and you'll enjoy it going in both directions. You can see another advantage of the trip out to Neckarsteinach is the beautiful rural scenery that you'll be enjoying, including cows grazing on the hillside. And you might have some fun with the other passengers on board the ship. Consider it like a mini cruise. You can kick back, have a beer, and enjoy yourself. Returning to town under the bridge with more nice views of the castle up above, we see there's a solar boat powered by quiet electrical solar power. One of the best sights of the entire river journey is the view that you get right back in the heart of the old town, looking at the Alte Brücke, the old bridge, and up to the castle on the hill, along with beautiful old buildings that are lining the riverbank. You just don't get this exact view if you're standing on shore, so this alone makes the boat trip worthwhile. And the way the boats are built with plenty of outdoor viewing areas up top and at the bow and stern really enhances your ability to look all around in all directions. Or you could relax at the indoor dining salon. And then there's a long, beautiful River's Edge Park. You'll see this is very popular with the locals. There are playgrounds for the kids, there's weeping willow trees, and various kinds of lush vegetation. There's flocks of geese, there's ducks swimming by. It's a healthy marine habitat because they've done an excellent job keeping the river waters quite clean. Even though further upstream, the river valley is densely populated and industrialized with companies like Mercedes-Benz operating factories, but doing it in a clean way. The river is 10th largest in Germany and one of the main tributaries of the Rhine, which it joins 26 kilometers further north. They've kept the water so clean that people can swim in it when the weather's warm enough. And this green river park continues along for nearly a mile. The park actually extends out onto the water with various kinds of boating and swimming activities. Here's some more scullers, as we saw earlier, rowing on the river. It's a very vigorous exercise and a competitive sport. The university has rowing clubs, and for many residents, it's one of their regular activities to help keep in shape. The Neckar River is an ideal place for the sport. This park is free and easily accessible to everybody. Many people just walk here from their homes or drive. There's plenty of parking nearby, or take a bus. Have a picnic, do some sunbathing. But watching kids play can be a little hazardous. Well, we survived the journey just fine. Very relaxing. Nice way to spend an hour of your time, or half a day if you went all the way out to Neckarsteinach and back. Yet another good reason to spend at least a couple of days here in Heidelberg. As you have been seeing in our detailed movie, there is a lot to do in Heidelberg, including eating and drinking some terrific food and beer, as we'll show you coming up later. You could also take a cruise on the Rhine River, going by train from Heidelberg to St. Goar. It's about an hour and a half. Then catch the boat. It's about a 3-hour ride to Bingen, and then take the train back. It's pretty much a full-day excursion that goes through the most scenic part of the Rhine Valley with many castles and vineyards and villages up on the hillsides. But for the easy Heidelberg boat ride, try the Neckar River. After the boat ride, it would be fun to take a walk in some of the side streets from one end of the old town to the other. Sometimes those little-known back lanes of a place can be more interesting than the famous sights. For example, in Heidelberg, Germany. We're going to take you for a walk on the little side lanes of town rather than that busy marketplace and main street of the old town, the Hauptstrasse. Instead, we're going to go a little bit off the beaten track and show you the back streets of Heidelberg. And you'll find the side lanes have their own special charm, such as Untere Strasse, one of the more important small lanes that runs parallel to the Hauptstrasse, with a typical mix of uses including residential, shop, cafes, and famous bridge around the corner. The twin-towered Old Bridge is one of the main landmarks of town. In German, it's called the Alte Brücke, with an official name of Karl Theodor Brücke. It dates back to 1786, and this is one of the signature sites of the city. It was never damaged or destroyed in any of the various wars that affected Heidelberg. There's a bronze statue of a monkey on the bridge. Originally, there was a stone statue of a monkey that dated back to the 15th century. And they say you get good luck by rubbing the monkey. Always a popular spot for the visitor. Walk between those towers through the gatehouse out onto the bridge, where you'll get some lovely views. Be sure to take the short walk all the way across the bridge and check out the view looking back at the town with that castle up above. Curiously, though, cars are allowed to drive on this pedestrian bridge early in the morning and at night. It's a convenience for people who live here and for some clever tourists. While this is a most popular gathering spot for visitors, locals always find their way here, even for their wedding photos. Shows how much the locals value this scenic location. They come down after the wedding, bringing their party with them and taking pictures on the bridge. It makes sense because this is probably the most photographed site in town. It's a scenic location with riverboats and the green hill and the city on the other side. Extending out from the bridge is Steingasse, one of the busiest side streets, with many restaurants and leading up to the market square. Steingasse is only 1 block long, and it's chock-a-block with places to eat, drink, and shop. Connecting the market square with the old bridge, this is one of the most popular streets in the city. A seat at one of the many outdoor tables gives you a good view of the passing parade of people. In the morning, it's very quiet, but by midday, it gets very busy, and then later in the evening, it quiets down again. This is my favorite street in the city for eating and drinking because it's got a lovely mix of locals and visitors, with a couple of great bars and restaurants. One excellent dining choice is Hack Teufel, with traditional cuisine. They've got indoor and outdoor seating, excellent beer. It's a typical local restaurant, and you'll find rustic wooden interior. They've got pork tenderloin with dumpling or spätzle, Vienna veal scallop, sausage with sauerkraut and dumpling. They also run a hotel upstairs with 12 rooms. There's also a brew pub nearby, and these restaurants along Steingasse are generally open throughout the day and into the evening. You'll find the workers here are quite friendly, making this a great place for a stroll at night. In the evening, the old bridge at the end of Steingasse is beautifully lit up, especially fine at twilight. Restaurant Goldener Hecht is so conveniently located right at the old bridge. So you have a nice outdoor ambiance that Stein Gasse Street runs next to it, the river nearby, and featuring Austrian cuisine along with German. Or just sit at the bar and have a beer. The bridge is a transportation hub with an intersection of streets extending out in all directions. A restaurant on every corner in various price ranges, seating indoors or out, and beguiling little lanes inviting you to explore them. Now we're going to take a little walk off the beaten track, get away from the tourist crowds and the big market square, step away from the crowds at the old bridge, and into the little lanes of the east end of the old town. It's a quiet residential neighborhood, heading towards that triumphal arch called Karlstor. Near here you can follow a footpath that goes up the hill that will lead you to the castle, or you could take the Funicular. And there's an anthropology museum with exhibits of the cultures of the world. This small anthropology museum does have quite a fine collection, especially of artifacts from New Guinea, of all places. And also there's a nice Asian collection here as well, and other parts of the world. Something different, not quite what you'd expect to run into when you're walking around in Heidelberg, perhaps. There are some quaint little alleys in this corner of town towards the river, so you might do a little meandering back and forth, observing the details of each unique building and seeing some slices of daily life here. Local residential neighborhood. There's a few modern apartment buildings mixed in. You'll see families out for a walk, just carrying on with their daily life. Karlsplatz is popular with local kids who like to climb on the fountain. It symbolizes the universe and planet Earth. And underneath the Karlsplatz, there's a large parking garage. And there's actually an underground road that connects into a system that bypasses the town. It comes through a gate at the far end of the old town, goes through the parking structure, and then under the mountain behind. There are several famous places to eat all around Karlsplatz, including one of the great bakeries of town, Gundel. Highest quality with normal prices, offering an amazing choice of cakes and tarts and cookies, as well as sandwiches, earning it a 5-star rating in TripAdvisor, with table seating indoors and out, located right on Karlsplatz, one of the major squares, and yet tourists often miss it, a few minutes walk from the marketplace. Well, there's two famous student pubs located just adjacent to this Karlsplatz. One of them is the Red Ox, and the other is Seppel. And they both offer traditional bar meals and lots of beer and occasional nighttime music. The Red Ox was featured in that classic operetta, The Student Prince. There's a wonderful view of the castle from Karlsplatz, especially at twilight, just as the sun goes down. The side lanes are worth exploring at night also. Very safe. There's some restaurants tucked away. One block over, another great twilight view from the Kornmarkt. The Kornmarkt was a place where grain was sold in the old days, back in the Middle Ages. It's paved in sturdy cobblestones that are built to last for yet another 500 years, and surrounds a Baroque statue of the Madonna standing on a tall fountain pedestal. And that's the Madonna of the Kornmarkt. It's a beautiful Baroque style statue. You see the elaborate cupids, the putti at her feet. Just a very fine Baroque style from the early 18th century. The Kornmarkt and nearby lanes are among the best preserved parts of town, and the funicular up to the castle is just around the corner. Next, we are taking kind of a random stroll here through these little side lanes of town. No particular place to go, no need for a map. You can just turn left, turn right, see what looks interesting as you get to a corner, and go that way or this way. And you can't get lost because it really is a small area, with interesting sights in every street. There are free books offered around town by the Society of Bürgerstiftung. This combination of low-rise structure with medium density and a comfortable mix of activities creates what modern planners call a human scale, where people can live together in a neighborhood without crowding or congestion. Centuries ago, this comfortable mixing of homes and business within easy walking distance was the norm that many modern towns are now struggling to recreate in efforts to overcome suburban sprawl, traffic congestion, and inner city decay. We can learn valuable lessons about how to make a functioning urban community from these peaceful, narrow lanes. Suddenly, in the midst of this low-rise tangle of alleys, a tall building rises to the sky. It's the Jesuit church, with elaborate Baroque architecture that looks more Italian than German. And yet the inside is rather plain with a light, airy feeling that is worth seeing. It was one of the first major new buildings constructed after the wars of the late 17th century. A few blocks over, on the other side of the university campus, is the other major church of this part of town, Peterskirche, St. Peter's Church. It was built from 1490 in the Gothic style. You see the pointed arches with that typical red sandstone construction material of the city. Sometimes you'll get lucky and hear some music. There are some older tombs and gravestones inside the church. Peterskirche was built on the site of an earlier chapel, just outside what had been the old medieval walls of the town. There's a huge organ inside. Often students are practicing on it. Sunday services are accompanied by music from the organ and choral groups, and occasionally there's an evening concert. During the day, the church is generally open and there's no admission charge. You're free to come on in and have a look, and maybe you'll catch some music. For the past 100 years, the church has been associated with the Heidelberg University across the street and its theological faculty. We're now in the western half of the old town, and we can recap on the map where we've been and what's coming up. We are heading down the street called Pluck, a route primarily for pedestrians and bicycles, and it passes one of the larger open plazas in the old town, Friedrich Ebertsplatz. And facing it, a fine 3-star hotel, Anlage, opened in 1892. Although many tourists don't know it's there, Pluck is one of the major streets of the old town, running parallel to Hauptstrasse, 1 block over. It's a busy road for bicycles, with all of the young people and students and university crowd flocking around here. Bikes are not allowed to be ridden on the Hauptstrasse, although some do. As you find typically in Europe, the bicycle is a major means of transportation. After all, these towns are rather compact. You can get from one end to the other by going just a few miles, and therefore bicycles make a convenient means of transportation. You'll see lots of these bike racks with hundreds of bicycles locked up there. And there are restaurants and many shops along Pluck that appeal to that younger crowd. With so many people going by, you do get a pretty good retail atmosphere, including even a supermarket. After all, it's a residential neighborhood with many homes in these small alleys throughout the old town. You'll notice there are few, if any, tourists along this street. It's nice to get away from those major historic sites and the busy Hauptstrasse pedestrian lane and get into these more authentic local neighborhoods with a feeling for what life in the city is like. Given the youthful atmosphere of the street, you'll find some lower prices and more offbeat items available. Just try not to get run down by some of these bicycles going by. But these riders are very careful and experienced. A few shops and offices are located on the ground floor of these side alleys, with apartments upstairs, including many affordable units rented by students, judging from the number of bicycles outside. It's a place where young families can bring their kids out to a nearby playground and find shops offering important services like bicycle repair and gift shops, all within easy walking distance or just a pedal away from home. There's no doubt this is a bicycle-friendly town. Watch out for little daredevils. Now we'll take a deeper dive into these little back lanes and learn something about the history of how this city came to be. Here we are just one block away from the main street and the main square, and yet it's already a very quiet atmosphere. It's mostly a pedestrian zone. The few cars allowed in here have special permits. They either live here or they work here. And now notice the buildings. Look around at all these buildings, and what you'll see is fairly kind of a uniform appearance in terms of height and styles of building. The facades are all similar. There's no two that are exactly alike. There's no two that are identical, but you'll see the similarity. Now, how could this happen? What have we got here? How did this city develop in such a way that it's so harmonious? The roots of this city are Gothic. They became a Gothic town. Middle Ages, 12th century, 14th century, the street patterns were established as you see today, at that time in the Middle Ages. But something happened. It was in 1689. The French came and invaded Germany. Louis XIV's armies came in. And in 1689, they destroyed Heidelberg completely. They leveled the city, flattened it. So what happened then? They rebuilt the city all in a similar style, in the Baroque style. When you get into the early 17th century, this is the era of the Baroque. And what you see today is from that time period. So we're looking at structures that are 300 years old and all built up in this wonderful, harmonious way, and then not destroyed since then. There was treaties and special deals that saved the town of Heidelberg. So too bad that there was a destruction of the old Gothic town, but at least it resulted in this marvelous Baroque town being built in its place. And so on the ground floor, you've got a lot of offices, businesses, lawyers, architects, and little cafes, and then upstairs is the residences. So this city is almost like a living museum. Streets in the old town do have a quiet atmosphere. As we've seen, they're narrow and often restricted to only pedestrians and bicycles, with only a few cars allowed in by special permit. In the summertime, there could be thousands of people milling about in the main square and on the Hauptstrasse main pedestrian lane, but at the same time, there's hardly anybody one block away over here in that residential zone. It's worth taking a look, because sometimes those little out-of-the-way, off-the-grid streets that are not even mentioned in guidebooks provide the most interesting, authentic experience. That completes our in-depth look at the streets, the landmarks, the castle, the river, the little lanes of Heidelberg, but we have a few more practical tips to share with you about hotels and restaurants. You've already seen a lot of great food, but there's a bit more to show you. Our Hotel Hollanderhof is conveniently located in the old town next to the bridge. A good breakfast is an important meal for the traveler to give you that early morning energy that'll get you through the day. A buffet breakfast is generally included with the price of the room in Germany, so let's have a look and see what's on offer. You just help yourself as much as you want. There's always a good variety of fruits and cheeses, meats, cereals, yogurts, breads, croissants, juices, all sorts of great food here to get you going for the day. There is so much to see and do in Heidelberg, with so many great restaurants to experience, such as those in the program, which makes it worthwhile spending at least 2 days here in your visit, especially at a centrally located hotel like this, seemingly surrounded by restaurants, including a traditional tavern that shares the same building, Restaurant Spreisel, a popular local spot where I enjoyed the beef roulade with the homemade spätzle. Our group enjoyed one of the best meals of the visit at Schnuckelach, also near the bridge facing the river, a typical local tavern with traditional wood interior. Just great service, wonderful atmosphere, and such delicious, authentic local food. Sliced veal with spätzle and mushroom. We each had something different, so there was a big variety on our table for us all to enjoy looking and sharing. Love that spätzle. It's a pasta dumpling. Weißerbach is one of my favorites. Just go to the end of Unterer Strasse and take a right on Große Mantelgasse. You can sit indoors or outdoors at this fine restaurant, serving one of the most delicious lamb dishes you'll ever have. Like many of these restaurants, they operate a small hotel. Do some walking and you'll discover some other good restaurants in the blocks all around Weißerbach, such as Bachmühlde, a small hotel and gourmet restaurant with meat, fish, and vegetarian dishes, pork belly, steak, tuna, tagliatelle, ravioli, dumplings, and spätzle. Simplicissimos is one of the top gourmet restaurants of Heidelberg, featuring French cuisine. A 3-course meal here will set you back about €70 and well worth it. Located on Ingrimstrasse. On the other extreme of the price range, let's have a look at the main university cafeteria, which is in a former arsenal that's called the Marstall. Earlier we saw the smaller cafeteria on the campus near the Hauptstrasse. This larger cafeteria is a few blocks away down by the river. Little known fact, it's open to the public. Students sit outdoors in nice weather at a big collection of picnic benches. It's a great socializing place for these young people to rendezvous with their friends, meet some new friends, have a chat, swap tips, bring the kids. You can also sit indoors at this cafeteria, and there's quite a selection. There's a hot table with cooked foods. You can get sandwiches or just a light bite or a drink. There's a very good salad bar. Students pay less than the general public, but still this is a very reasonably priced place to eat. It's a bargain. And they won awards as the best college cafeteria in Germany. The bar's open till 11:30 at night. It's a pub, a cafe, a restaurant, and a beer garden all in one. Now we're taking you back to the Hauptstrasse for an evening stroll, and we'll end up where we began the program, at the marketplace. There are so many food options along the street that it would easily take you a whole month to eat your way from one end to the other. You're going to find many nice temptations to sit down and have a drink or have a meal, maybe just a snack. It's like nonstop eating when you walk along this street, it seems. Have dinner, some beer, go to bed, wake up, and have breakfast. There are many inexpensive and casual places to eat here. It seems like every third shop front is another restaurant. They've got Mexican, Chinese, Thai, Italian, Spanish, Greek, and yes, German. You name it. Many also serve pizza. Do yourself a favor, skip the exotic ethnic foods and pizza and have some authentic German food. And there are some cozy little pubs and bars to finish off the night. That completes our grand tour of Heidelberg, perhaps the most in-depth coverage ever created of this wonderful city. A place to put up high on your bucket list. This is Dennis Callan. Thanks for watching.